What up? I'm back with another power rankings video. This week, I'm looking at the week 17 power rankings as we had some upsets this week and really shaking up the rankings. But before we get into it, subscribe to the channel to be entered into our giveaway at 500 subscribers. 32 are the Panthers. This team played really well, probably their best offensive performance this year because it's the most points they've scored in the game. And they just couldn't get it done. They couldn't spike the ball at the end to give them a chance to get a field goal to send it to OT as they head into Jacksonville this week, looking to possibly knock them out of the playoffs. 31 are the Commanders, and tough luck loss here as they came back in this one and gave up a game-winning field goal to lose their sixth straight game and 8 of their last 9. If San Francisco and Dallas left this year, probably not going to win those, so they're more than likely going to finish 4 and 13. But the biggest question is who are they going to start here this week? 30 are the Chargers. They fall one spot after a loss to the Bills at home. They played well after that loss that they got dismantled against the Raiders, but they were 1 for 3 in the red zone, kicking 5 field goals. And this is where, this offense has struggled. They can't get into the end zone. 29 are the Cardinals. Struggled a little bit against the Bears, can't stop Fields and the run game. And now they get Philadelphia and Seattle. Possibly could finish 3 and 14. They're not going to be favored in either of those games, but they could mess up the NFC playoffs a little bit if they do get an upset. 28 are the Giants. They were close to pulling off the upset in Philly, but the last second play was intercepted, and the Giants' chances of winning that one were gone. Saquon played well. Tyrod Taylor came in for DeVito. He played all right. But now they get the Rams here at home, and if they want to mess up the NFC brace, they're going to have to beat the Rams. 27 are the Patriots, and they upset Denver in Denver. And this was a big game. They, kind of knocked Denver out of the playoffs, not officially, but took a huge hit to their chances. Zappe played well. The offense was really clicking in this one. Struggled for a little bit as they let the Broncos come back in this one, the defense wise, but they figured it out how to win this game. And now they go into Buffalo. They can beat Buffalo. Miami would win the division. 26 are the Jets, staying put, blow the 20-point lead, but win it with a 54-yard field goal. Obviously, next year is the big question mark. What are they going to do? Rodgers fully healthy at the time. They're going to bring in more weapons, get him protected. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting off season for the Jets. 25 are the Titans. They fall a few spots here after their loss to Seattle at home. They get Houston and Jacksonville to finish the year, so they could screw up the AFC South just a little bit there and possibly help Indy. If they can win both of those games, Indy would win the division. If they win out, I think one of those games is going to go Tennessee's way because this team has started to play a little bit better. Right now, they hold a fifth pick in the draft, and it could be a quarterback, or they could get some offensive line to protect Will Levis if they choose to go that way. 24, the Vikings, and I'm dropping them a lot here because their quarterback problems. They don't know what they're doing here into this week against Green Bay. It's a must-win game. Whoever wins that probably, I'm not saying is going to make the playoffs, but there's a good chance that they are going to be that 7th seed. And I don't think it's going to be the Vikings. Obviously, being a Packers fan, but just looking at the paper right now, the quarterback play has been all right, but those 4 interceptions caught up to Nick Mullins after there's been a lot of questionable passes in the last few weeks where he's thrown that haven't picked off. And it's going to come out in this game Sunday night against Green Bay. 23 are the Bears. They get the win over the Cardinals. They're 6-9 this year, and they could finish 8-9 here and upset Atlanta and Green Bay. And I think a lot of people would scratch their head and at the end of the year and say, this team finished 8-9. And they also have Carolina's pick. Right now, they have the first pick in the draft, and they could add probably Marvin Harrison Jr. with Justin Fields and DJ Moore. This team could be set up for success next year. 22 are the Saints. They're falling 5 spots after their loss on the road to the Rams. They didn't do anything early, and that cost them a chance at winning this game. Derek Carr, biggest question moving forward. How is he still going to be a Saint? Maybe he gets dealt this offseason. Who knows? But they have a good core, and the Saints really need to figure it out. 21 are my Packers, and they're moving back one spot, even after a win in Carolina. Love had a great game here in this one, leading a game-winning drive, 3 total touchdowns. But the defense is the biggest question for me, and obviously they've been atrocious the last 3 weeks, especially. They got to stop Minnesota somehow on the road if this team wants to somehow scrape into the playoffs. 20 are the Falcons. They get a big win over Indy at home. I didn't think they would win, and to win by 19 is very good for this Falcons team. They showed out, played well. So that means they're due for a letdown game this week in Chicago. They're still alive in the NFC South playoff race, They need a few things to happen, but if they win out, anything can happen. 19 are the Raiders. This team shut down the Chiefs, and the defense especially did that. Defensive touchdowns, a pick six, a fumble return for touchdown, and they, kind of were the Grinch to the Chiefs on Christmas. But if this team wins out and the Chiefs lose out, the Raiders are going to win the West. And I know that's crazy to think about, especially what happened early in the year, firing their coach, benching Jimmy Garoppolo. Just a lot that's going on right now. But the Raiders still have a shot to win the division. 2 weeks left in the season. Many people couldn't predict that. 18 are the Steelers. They're moving up a lot here as well, moving up 7 spots with a big statement win over the Bengals. George Pickens had one of his best games of his young career. Mason Rudolph is going to be the starter next week as well in Seattle. And if they can win one of those two, I think this team can squeak into the playoffs here. They got 2 tough games to close it, but if they somehow win both on the road, the Steelers team is definitely going to make the playoffs. 17 of the Jaguars. This team keeps free falling here. And you can see there in week 13, they were ranked 7th. Now it's week 17, and they're ranked 17th. And this team just is not playing well. Lost 4 straight, 2 and 5 out of the bye week. Need a win this week to stay atop the AFC South. And if they win out, then they control their own destiny and win the AFC South at 10 and 7. But right now, that's a very questionable. Lawrence probably isn't going to play in this one, and it's not looking good for Jacksonville. 16 are the Broncos. Tough luck loss almost eliminates them from the playoffs. They came back down 16, but then just couldn't stop them when they needed to the most. Russell Wilson played well. I just don't know what to say. This Broncos team had a lot of hope, turned it around, but they're just not playing well when they need to. 15 are the Seahawks, and this team is starting to figure it out. They're on a 2-game win streak. They're 3 and 5 in their last 8 games, which isn't the best for the second half of the season, but they're figuring out and they're winning when it matters most. 14 are the Colts. This team is falling back a few spots here after their loss to the Falcons on the road. I was kind of surprised to see this team struggle, and I guess it was kind of due because this team was playing really well, but now they're falling back 8 and 7. And if they can win out, they get against Houston, they pretty much knock Houston out, and then it would all come down to that Jacksonville game. 13 is Houston, and they get 2 divisional opponents here to close the year with Tennessee and Indy. If they win out, go 10 and 7, then this team can win the AFC South. They just need a Jaguars loss to do so. Davis Mills played well in this one. Dalton Schultz was the big beneficiary of him. And hopefully Stroud can return this week so we can see this Texan offense at full strength. 12 are the Bengals. They're falling out of the top 10 after an embarrassing loss in Pittsburgh. Finally struggled under Browning. He struggled as well with 3 interceptions. T. Higgins looked great as a wide receiver 1, and he's probably going to be the receiver 1 this week again in Kansas City. And this is a must-win game for both of those teams. Those Chiefs come in at 11. It's a must-win game for them, but their biggest concern is the offense. Mahomes had 2 turnovers that result in touchdowns. That's why they lose this game against Raiders. And they lead the AFC West by 2 games, but they lose out, Raiders win out. Obviously, like I said earlier, Raiders will win the AFC West. Probably unlikely, but anything can happen here with 2 weeks left. At 10, I have the Buccaneers. And this team, man, they have picked it up as of late. They're 21st in week 13. Now they're in the top 10. They've won 4 straight. Mayfield is possibly playing his case for most improved or comeback player, whatever you want to put him in. But Baker has been dealing these last 4 weeks. He's looked great. Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard season. And they get the Saints this week. And if they can win this one, I think that the division is theirs. At 9, the Rams move into the top 10 as well. And you can see here, week 11, I had this team 27. Here we are, fast forward to week 17. They're top 10, playing well, 5 and 1 since week 10. And they currently hold a 7 seed in the playoffs. Go on the road here, beat the Giants, 9 and 7, and then go to San Francisco to close it out to possibly get a playoff berth. It's going to be a tough game, but the Rams right now are clicking. 8 are the Browns, and this team moves into the top 10 after falling out of week 12. They find themselves back in after a big win on the road in Houston. They face the Jets and the Bengals. More than likely, this team can get the 12 and 5 and possibly win this division if Baltimore loses out. It's possible, but the Browns are playing really well right now. Just Flacco needs to limit his interceptions moving forward. At 7, I have the Cowboys. They're falling back 1 spot with a tough luck loss on the road to Miami. They came back, scored the touchdown late, did what they had to do to put themselves in position to win, but defense gave up that game-winning field goal at the end, and it's unfortunate, but they return home where they're undefeated this year. They won 15 straight at home, and it's against the Lions team that's coming off winning the division last week. So it's going to be a good game here on Saturday night. 6 are the Eagles. They're moving back up 2 spots here with this win. It was a late scare, but they found a way to win. They're 1-3 in their last 4, which is concerning, but they close with 2 easier teams, the Cardinals and the Giants. The Cardinals, I think, could possibly upset the Eagles here. Not saying they're gonna, but definitely on paper, if Murray can scramble around, hit his guys, and have a good game, it's all impossible with the way this Eagles team has been playing. 5 are the Bills. They stay at 5 just because they escaped with a victory on the road in LA. And they played well enough to win, but if Allen keeps having to throw the ball only 20 times in the playoffs, either they're playing really well or things aren't going their way. The Niners fall from 1 to 4 here after 3 straight weeks at number 1. Very bad game on all assets of the game for both sides of the defense and offense. Purdy, 4 interceptions. I would say 1 was his fault early in the game. That first throw, bad throw. After that, I think all 3 could be argued that there were a little bit of luck involved in those. McCaffrey making his case for MVP with another great game as they look to rebound this week against the Commanders. 3 are the Dolphins, and they move up 1 spot after beating the Cowboys on a last-second field goal to secure a playoff spot as well. If they can either win this week and Bills lose, or they both win, and then it'll come down to the last week of the season for the AFC. And I think the Dolphins are going to get this one. I think the early pick, I am going with the biggest game of the week. I am going with the Miami Dolphins on the road here. I don't think you can't stop speed, and the Ravens 2 straight weeks with possibly facing the 2 top offenses. It's going to be a tough challenge. And I think the Ravens are due for a letdown. At 2 are the Lions. They're moving up to number 2 here after they win the North for the first time since 1993. And they get the Cowboys and the Vikings to finish the year. They can win out and still somehow find themselves as the number 1 seed. They need a lot to happen. They need the Niners and Eagles to lose 1 more game. And obviously the Lions would have to win out. It's definitely doable for them as long as they have a run game, which Gibbs and Montgomery are playing well, and Goff plays well like he has been doing. This Lions team, could turn some heads entering the playoffs. And at 1, of course, are the Ravens after a dominant win on the road against San Francisco, forcing 5 interceptions, playing well. And you can see the trajectory of this team from week 12 to now. They just kept finding themselves moving up and finally are at 1. And this team right now is the Super Bowl favorite. But that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you guys check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.